Well, tensions in the South China Sea, ratcheted up another notch this week. Japan rolling out new plans for an expanded military. Also, Japan and the Philippines are scheduled to hold their first joint naval drill this month. So what does this mean for the U.S. and its pivots towards Asia, as well as the other players in the corner of the world? Joining us now to discuss this is Todd Wood, correspondent for the Washington Times. Todd, it's good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me back on, John.
All right, Todd, is China more concerned about these joint military exercises between Japan and the Philippines, or the U.S.'s increased interest in the area recently?
Well, look, China is on a path to basically build a capability to dominate the naval traffic or maritime traffic in the South China Sea. That's what all these islands they are building are for. And, the U.S. is very concerned about that, as well as the allies. So you're going to see more and more U.S. force brought into the region intentionally to show China that we're serious about protecting, free trade in the region.
Yeah, there was some back and forth from China and the U.S. this week. Reports are that the U.S. is considering sending in military to disrupt the islands in the South China Sea that China is building right now. We should point that out as well. The U.S. has avoided taking sides really explicitly up until this point. What do you think is the end game by this recent announcement by the U.S. that they might send more military assets to this particular area?
I think the U.S. has no choice. They have to show force in the region. They have to show our allies that we mean to do what we say, which is to protect the freedom of sea traffic in the region. It's one of the most heavily trafficked regions in the world, and China wants to dominate it. The other issue is that we've got a real conflict between our allies right now, Japan and South Korea, and that is something that the U.S. is concerned about as well.
We heard Ash Carter talk about this when some of his first speeches while on the job. Is this a difference with the new Pentagon under his leadership than what we saw under Martin Dempsey? Excuse me, not Martin Dempsey.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be more aggressive. I heard John Kerry say today that he's going to be very, aggressive against China. We'll see if that actually happens. I don't know if he's going to bring James Taylor over there or not. But the Chinese, I don't think are worried about the American reaction right now. Of course, they're going to be very belligerent about U.S. ships, advanced technology, the littoral ships coming into the South China Sea. They're going to make a squawk about it, but there's really not much they can do unless we start a war. But the risk is that we have some type of accidental confrontation between ships or aircraft in the region.
And I meant to say Chuck Hagel, not Martin Dempsey there. I got the two confused. Excuse me for that. But China has responded to what the U.S. is saying now. The Chinese foreign minister had this to say, quote, "We demand the relevant side talk and act cautiously and not take any actions that are risky and provocative," which you just spoke about, Todd, "to maintain regional peace and stability." Is this some veiled threat from China here, or is there something more to this statement?
Well, look, I mean, they're the aggressor here. They're trying to build islands on sunken reefs so that they can claim territory in the region that a lot of different nations claim, whether it be Vietnam, the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia. There are a lot of disputed territories, and just because China dumps a bunch of sand on a reef doesn't mean that all of a sudden they have claim to that region, and because you've also got sea and naval and airspace around whatever territory is there. So it's a real problem, but the U.S. has no choice but to say, look, we don't respect this, we don't honor it, and you're not going to do it.
All right, no choice, but perhaps too little too late. Todd Wood, thanks so much for being with us. We'll check back in with you soon. And coming up, are liberals using the Amtrak train derailment to fast-track their agenda? We'll talk to Ford O'Connell, who's going to be with us live from Washington, D.C. in just a moment. There he is. We'll talk to Ford about not letting a crisis go to waste right after this.